In any point studio, where is sample data used for live preview stored by default? In any point studio, you remember we were providing metadata, and the metadata, the data we upload as example, gets uploaded to the project, included to the project. Where is it by default stored? Under source main resources, or source test resources, or source main mule. Perfect. Yeah. Source test resources. So when you work with projects, you can see the changes, what is happening here. So when you upload data, when we provide example data, they are put under source test resources that you can see here, and under sample underscore data. That's cool. All of you got it? Such questions come in interviews, so it is good to pay attention to details as well. Next. What data type can be used for map operation? So by now, all of you should know this: array, string, object, simple literals. For map operation, not map object. We have map object and map operations. We have also filter and filter object. So you have to know the differences. Perfect, cool, yes. So under map, you can, by the way, you have this, the documentation, you have to bookmark it, and it should be your friend. You have to visit it multiple times, read it again and again until you know what is where very well. So under map, we have iterates over items in an array and outputs the results into a new array. So inputs are arrays, outputs are also arrays. That's cool. Next. Functions in core module are automatically available, but function forms other modules have to be imported before use. When we write DataWeave function, when we use DataWeave code, it's saying we don't need to import the functions from the core module, but the functions from the other modules, if they are not imported, it will give us error message. It doesn't know it. Is that true or false? Nice. All of you are getting all of them correct so far. That's nice. Next question. This one we didn't see it in class, so that's why I brought it here. Which prints 4.675 rounded to 2 decimal places? Focus here, 2 decimal places. So there is some number as a string, curly braces format, colon. Then we have, after dot, we have 2 hashes, 2 zeros, or 0 and hash. If you have not seen this before, that's okay. We'll see it now. Okay, so this one, let me go to DataWeave Playground, and we can see together. So the question is 4.675 as a string, then round it to 2 decimal places. We have format. So if we just do dot hash like this, it gives us 2 decimal places. However, if the number is just, if it index, like for example 6 like this, it gives us 4.6. It is not necessarily 2 digits. It rounds it up to the second digit if we have more than 2 numbers here. Otherwise, if it is 1, then it doesn't add 0. If we make 0, 0 here, it is also, it makes sure we have 2 decimal places. And if the number of digits here is less than this, it will just add a 0. So if we have 4.675, for this one, to round it to 2 decimal places, both of them work the same. Whether we use this, or this, or any combination of this. Oh, this one doesn't work. Okay, let's see. Or like this. Okay. 3 of them, they work the same. However, the difference between hashes and the zeros is when we have after the point, the number of digits we have is less than what we specify here. It doesn't add a 0 if we are using hashes. If we are using zeros, it makes sure we have that number of decimal places by adding a 0. So that's the only difference. Otherwise, we can use all 3 of them. There is a 0.00, dot hash like this, or .0 hash like this for 675. For this one to 2 decimal places, either this one, or this one, or this one work fine. So yeah, just practice it and remember it. There is at least one interview question in the certification also commonly. Okay. When using the map function with anonymous functions, what does $sign correspond to? So when we use map, we're either specifying following the map, we open bracket and we say item index, or without specifying the item index, we can also use $sign, $sign. So $sign, does it correspond to the item? Does it correspond to the index? Or we have C and D also, key of an item in an object. Yeah, this one, you can see it from, read it from here. So we have it here. Is it explicitly put? I see it here, but also there is, okay, scroll down, bear with me for a sec. Okay, we have it here, yeah, here. If the parameters are not named, if we don't explicitly put like item index or value index, then the index is $, whereas the value is $. So like, for example, in here, if you want just even numbers, we were putting, let's say 1 to 10. This is 1 to 10 arrays, right? Numbers, right? So we're putting, now to access these values, I just use $sign. Let's square them. Map, this one, $sign times $sign, for example. So it gives me square of each item. It was from 1 to 10 here, whereas here it is 1, 4, 9, and so on. So these are the items. However, if I put, I can do this also $sign, $sign. If I do this, the $sign is index starts from 0 in DataWeave. So you see 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on up to 9. That means we have 10 items here. It starts from 0. These are the indices, whereas the values are the $sign that we see. So in a nutshell, $sign is the value or the item, and the $sign is corresponds to the index. Next. Okay, what about when we use map object? What does $sign correspond to? Is it key, value, index? You have to remember the order of this, because if you miss the order, your code will be erroneous. So when using the map object function with anonymous function, if we don't have named parameters, that means what does $sign correspond to? So with map, we have single dollar sign and double dollar signs, whereas with map object, we have single dollar sign, double dollar sign, and triple dollar sign. So you can read it here. The order, you see the order here. It is, you see it here, value key index. Yeah, value key index. So value is single dollar, key is double dollar, index is triple dollar sign. So the question was, if it is $2 signs, it is key. Yes, it is key. Next, multi-select. Which of the following can be input array for map function? For map function, what can be the input array? JSON, Java, XML, CSV. So it should be an array. And if you have some data in some format, when you use map, you may get an error. So I want you to remember this. What are the correct inputs for the map function? The input data type. Yes, JSON and Java. Remember that JSON and Java are the correct input data types. Next, true or false. When transforming from XML to JSON, by default, only XML elements and not attributes are created as JSON fields. So we have the attributes. We have attributed for the tags, right? So if we have XML with attributes, and if we just transform it, output JSON and put payload, then this is saying the attributes will be lost. We will not see them as JSON fields. The attributes from the XML file, we will not see them in the JSON fields, true or false. Yeah, this one, that is true. If we want them, we have to explicitly access them. We were sharing some questions in the Telegram channel about that. That it was, I think, in, okay, let me go to the DataWeave interview questions and we'll get that. Opening it. And here we have the project. So far, I will update I will push this to GitHub so as to update it with the questions that were recently added. Yeah, this one, for example. So in this one, the data we have, if we just open this, I just want to remind you, I hope many of you remember it already. That's why you answered it correctly, just for completeness sake. So you see, like, for example, we have under purchase orders, we have different purchase orders here. And here we have the attributes. So if we want to access these attributes, we have to use .at. If we read in this file, and I can copy it actually, show you, copy, go to DataWeave, XML. Yeah, this is better. And put payload here. If we just do like this, what this is saying is the attributes will be lost. We will not see them. And that is true. You can see the purchase order number and order date are not here, as you can see. We just have only under each address, we have name, street, city, state, zip, and country, but we don't have the purchase order number and order date attributes. And in this one, we were practicing that. And if we want that, we have to use .at. If I do like this, it gives me all the attributes, and I can select any of the attributes available. See, if I do, when I start .at, from each of them, from each purchase order, it extracts the attributes, purchase order number and order date. And then when I add order date, it just gives me order date only. So that is another thing to keep in mind. Next question, true or false? DWL files are stored under source main resources by default. when we save our variables, payload, or attributes rather than inline, if we want to save them as external files, by default, they are stored under source main resources. That one is also another thing to remember. If you work more, if you just practice more with Anypoint Studio, you will, from just seeing it multiple times, you will remember where things are located. Yep, good. Only 50% of you are participating, but those that are participating, yeah, you are doing good. Thank you. Next question, almost done. By default, DataWeave code in the transform message component is stored in line with the configuration file. By default, DataWeave code in the transform message component is stored in line with the configuration file. It means in line with the configuration file means it gets added to the configuration file. Last time when we were creating modules and saving them as DWL files, we were talking about this. So if you don't want your configuration file to be verbose, difficult to maintain, and so on, it is good to store your, your data with code as external files, we were saying. So that one is like, for example, we can quickly check something. Let me, which one do we have? And it was class 8, I guess. This one. So we're talking, here's the configuration file. So anything when you create your flows here, we say the code gets added to this part, the configuration file, you can see what is happening as you modify your message flow. So you see now, in this case, since we exported it, since we saved it as external file, we are just importing the modules here, as you can see. However, if we don't save it as external files and import it, then it will be added to the code here, and the code here will include everything. We can see from, I guess, from the interview questions, yeah, in here, like the code, you see here, we have all the code here. You see these objects, we have this data, everything. See how long it is. All the functions, different kinds of transformations, they have been added to our configuration file. However, if we save it as DWL file, it will be succinct, neat, and easy to figure out what is happening. So yes, the answer for that is true. And last but not least, we have, while variables are defined in the header section of a DataWeave expression, functions are defined in the body part. So we have the header part and the body part. Like if you think of DataWeave playground, after the 3 dashes is the body, above it is the header. So this one, it is saying variables are defined above the 3 dashes, whereas function is defined below the 3 dashes. Okay, so this is, let's see, DataWeave playground we have here. Let me refresh it. So always variables, we start with var. Let's call it var1, for example. Variables, I will define some array, and also functions are defined in the header section. So function, for example, we were writing different functions, and let's write a function that takes 2 numbers and returns the sum also. So we define variables, functions. There is also other data type and so on in this section. In the body section, we use them. So the answer for this one, for this question is false. So the variables and functions, they are defined here. Oh, the other thing quickly that I want to talk about here is we have add for 5, it adds 4 and 5, it returns 9. You may see when you read the documentation and so on in functions, you may see in the functions here with the data type specification. Like here, since I am adding numbers when writing the function, I can put it like this one as number. A is number and B is number. So when you see like this, you should not feel overwhelmed. So this one, what it is saying is the arguments are A and B, some two variables, two arguments A and B, and the result will be this, will be sum. So both of them have to be numbers. If I put now non-number, let's say it tells me it expects a number, but got a string. You see here in this error, it expecting number, but got this string. So it gives more information about the error. Okay, perfect. So that was the Kahoot questionnaires. I hope you liked it. I'll be quick here. Okay, nice. And I like the images there. Nice, nice, cool. So now let's see a couple of other important things. So covered with this one, the Kahoot question. Now let's see, we'll see the runtime module to handle errors in our DataWeave code, and then we'll see this one. So I will go over this because none of you responded to this question. Let's do it together. I shared my project to GitHub. I expected some of you would work on it and share the links, but you didn't. So that's fine. Let's work on it together. So this one, what it is saying is, so in the back end, it says use the W3 schools data on the course GitHub repo and create a MuleSoft project that reads the requested data and returns it to Postman as JSON. The requested data can be any of the W3 schools data. If you have it in your computer, good, I have it. Otherwise, from the course GitHub is what I said. So under here, if I increase zoom, under data, we have this one, all these CSV files. So if you send a request to get categories, it should give you categories. If you send a request to get customers, it should give you customers, and so on. So it becomes dynamic, that means, and responds to your request. So we will use read-URL. Here it says to use read-URL, and we can pass the file name as a query parameter, and test that. And I want, if we send inappropriate data, or if the data doesn't exist in the path, then we will see how DataWeave reacts. That's question number one. Question number two, this one is also important. So use the airports.json data and create a MuleSoft project that returns the requested field to Postman. If you requested name, it returns. So that data is also the usual airport data we have it here. So if I just send name, it should give me all the distinct names. If I send TZ, for example, it should give me this number. So as you can see, we are practicing building a dynamic app rather than static one, dynamic one. And we will connect that with handling DataWeave errors. So since I have the code built already, I'll just go over the code what I did. Let me close previous exercises. And this one also DataWeave interview questionnaires. So I have this one. So this one, it reads data first, a listener, right? I have an entity listener. I'm calling it W3 schools, and I'm expecting query parameter, as you can see here. So I'm creating, see here, I'm creating a variable called requested file. That requested file, I'm putting it as attributes.queryparameters.data. And if no query parameter is sent, I'm putting default of empty string, because it gives an error message if I don't do that. So it is good practice to give a default value here. So the file path, I can define the file path in two ways here. So we say if data, we are reading data from our own project, we use with class paths, we have the read URL, right? So the read URL, you can consult the documentation and read URL. Where are you here? You just provide a URL, but if it is in the project, it starts, this is a syntax. Class paths, colon, by this time it is under source main resources. My folder is under source main resources, and it is reading my file.txt here. So in our case also, we have class paths. Our data is under source main resources. As you can see on the left, it is under W3 schools plus the requested file. I'm concatenating it, double plus .csv, because all of the files are CSV, as you can see. And now I can just use read URL, file path, and specify the data type. All of them are the MIME type. It is application CSV. So this makes it dynamic. So this one, we can put it in two ways. If I just take this to show you in the DataWeave playground, you can use concatenation, like, let me bring it here. And this file path, let me just put products, for example. Let's say products is what is sent. Now, if I just put this in the body part, so I'm concatenating this string with the value of the requested file, which is products dot the final. I have to provide the full path, including the extension. So it gives me this. So I'm using read URL with this one. So it will read this file that is. If I change products to orders, you see here also it changes to orders. You can use double plus, or you can also use placeholder that we saw in one of the classes with $sign bracket. So I can remove this and this thing. So the file here, I just put $sign bracket and close the bracket like this also. So when we use $sign bracket, then this one inside the bracket will be replaced by its value, and its value is his orders. So as you can see, we get this. So you can use both ways. Okay, so that's it. This is how it should read it, and we can run and test this. Let me also explain the other one with the giving data for the requested field. The tutorial for this one in the DataWeave tutorial is in section, where was it? It was under section, it is this one, section 3.1, dynamic selector. You can see this one, read this one, and I would explain what I have done here. So now it is field. I am creating requested field as attributes.query parameters.field, and I have the file path. Now it is just the same file, so this is just static, and I'm reading the data here. Now I need the query param here. If we want dynamic, if we want to in here dynamic value selector, rather than using dot, we said we use square bracket. If I use square bracket, let me take the data and show you. For example, from here, I will just copy some of it only. Let's go up to here. And go to playground and put sample data here. I'm creating an array. If I just write payload here, the payload is there on the right. So if I just put name, as you can see, it gives me the names here. If I want this to be dynamic, I have, let's say, requested field. So the requested field, if I put it name, now I cannot put dot requested field here because the requested field is a a variable that has this value. So I cannot put dot requested name like this because there is no requested dot requested field like this because there is no requested field as a key in the payload. Rather, I can use square bracket like this. So now see if I do TZ now, it gives me the TZ. If I do Tzone, it gives me all the Tzone values. If I do lon, it gives me the lon values. If I do lat, it gives me the lat values. So dynamic replacement, right? So this one, the request, the values that it should return is varying based on the request. So that makes it dynamic. If you don't understand this well, go practice this section 3.1. So that's what I have done here. And I'm just returning distinct values. So distinct by $sign, ordered by $sign also to return ordered distinct values. So let's see these two parts first. I will run project, go to, this one was, yeah, DataWeave schools is the path here. And I will open Studio, Postman, make it full screen. And we said we will pass it as query parameters. So we can put it as key values here or query parameters. We said we pass it as question mark also. If you forget these things, you can review the previous classes. So go here. I'm requesting I'm sending requests to this flow. Now, what was it should be the query parameter should be named this one. So data. So I go data. We start with question mark. Data equals to products is what I want. For example, it should give me products when I do that. First, let me see if the project has been deployed already. Can you guys hear me? Oh, yeah, sorry. Let me see. Can you send a message in the chat if you can hear me? Okay, perfect. So you see products now, I'm passing this as query parameter. Send, it gives me the products data. As you can see, there is product ID, product name. If I want orders, so the many applications that we interact with, the dynamic behavior, it comes from because they handle it in such ways. Orders, now I have order ID, customer ID, the same flow, but it reads in different data. We have customers and so on. Now, what if I send data that doesn't exist? Customer, there is no customer data. So what will happen is if I put customer, which is inappropriate data that doesn't exist, so the requested file will be customer.csv here. It will try to read it here under this W3 schools data. There is no customer.csv. It is rather customers.csv. So it should give us an error message. So how can we customize the error is what we'll see next. See, if I do like this, I'm able to find the resource W3 schools customer.csv. There is also this part, including the code, as you can see, the code from the back end. It also displays here. So we'll see how to handle that. Before that, also, let's test the returning the requested field from the airports data set. The path for that is airports. And the query parameter, we want to pass it as field. Okay, as field. So if I come here, first I have to change the path. This airport is now field, let's put name. It should give us all distinct airport names. If I do like this, airports.json doesn't exist. Okay, unable to find resource. Let's quickly add it. Thought I added it. Airport. It is here. Oh yeah, this is airport. So see here, this one, it is airport. So let's rename this one to go to refactor, rename airports. Now this should fix it. My folder name here, as you can see on the right, it is airport under source main resources, but here the path is airport, so that is why it was giving an error message. Let's see if this got deployed. I hope. Okay, let's send now another request. Okay, that's really a major change. Okay, I will stop it and quickly run it. In the meantime, what is there in? Okay, until this gets redeployed. So the modules that we are going to cover today and tomorrow, other modules in addition to, so far we have covered core, the core modules, the functionalities in the core module, practice it, go over it again and again, try the interview questions I shared here, do them again and again with your friends as well. But the other modules also we saw are the strings and the arrays, which are commonly used. However, there are other modules also that have useful functionality. One of them is we have this lookup function. Lookup function is used to reference another flow, private flow. It cannot be used for subflows, but using DataWeave code, you can call another flow, execute another flow, and it returns the results. So the format is like this: lookup. This is a flow name. It should be private flow, not subflow, and you pass payload. So payload is a payload that goes from the calling from your code to the calling to the flow that is being called. So then it returns the result. The flow that is being called returns the resulting payload. It doesn't return attributes or variables. Read this one. This is very important. Let me share this in the chat. I'm talking about this one. Look up. We'll see that also today. Since we don't have much time, I think today we are going to see that only with and under runtime also. Runtime, we have how to handle errors. Like you remember with flow, we saw how to handle errors using try at application level, at flow level, and at component level also. Here also we have with data, we will see how to handle errors. These are used for handling errors. They are very interesting. We will see examples with this one also. So let's see if this completed. Now it's completed. I can send a request now. Yeah, see now it returns all the airport names. If I change the field, I want, let's say, time zone of the airports. What are the distinct time zones of the airports that I have in the data? This one, it gives me different time zones. So all of them are in America, and we have Asia and Pacific. Then we have record this also without time zone value. So this is how we can build an application which is dynamic. But now if I put a field that doesn't exist here, let's see the error mule, it says null. So it is good if it says here, for example, the field that you have requested is incorrect. Try again, or something like that, which is human readable and intuitive. That gives hint that the person provided a wrong field. So to handle that, we have, let's see the error handling. Under error handling here, I will push this project also to GitHub, and you can check it out. So here I'm importing functions from DW:runtime, which is this one. And what we do is we have this try function. Let me increase this. So before, what we were doing was, let me just remove this. This one is what we did in the first version in here. If you see this one, we are just using read URL rather than creating a variable actually. So on, we can just put it in the body itself like this also, just like this. But now in here, we want to handle error. So we can put from the runtime module, there is try function. And that try function, I have to close this bracket here. We pass it like with a map object. We are using anonymous functions where we don't specify parameters, but just bracket followed by /angle bracketing. So they are called anonymous functions. So for this one, we use anonymous functions. How do we do that? We do like this, empty bracket followed by --angle bracket. So now this try, it is a function and it reads this data. And if it gets it, it returns. If we send incorrect path, by the way, let's see the status code here. The status code, I want to show you this one. The status code here and this W3 schools. W3 schools. Question mark data products. If I send this, the status code you will see here is 200 OK, because it will get the data, right? No listener for endpoint W3 school. Oh, let's see why. Okay, I put 2 down forward slash by mistake. So you see the status code 200. However, if I send if I remove S from here, since that file doesn't exist, the status code will be 500. Now, when I use try, the status code will be still 200, but it will tell me whether it is an error or not. See this one, send. Now the status code is 500, server error. If I come under this one, when I use try, and it is this one, this one. This one, yeah, if I do try, so it is going to try to read this file. See, this one is the same like before. The only thing that we have added is try up to here. This one, just you can copy paste this part. It is the function name is try, but you have to put it with anonymous function like this and close the bracket here. Now, the path for this one is I will send request for this one with data that doesn't exist. W3 schools 2. So now, if I come here and add 2 here, if I put products, see when it is success. It tells us success and it returns the data. Okay, let me see. This one, oh yeah, the data type here is not CSV, is not JSON, it is CSV. Let's put CSV and this refresh. Okay. Okay. So we'll send a request to this one. So here, see the status code, even it didn't get it because while reading CSV, the application I put is, the MIME type is JSON. So the status code, see here, even if it didn't get it, it is still okay, 200 okay. But here it tells me if it was successful or not. It says no, false. And the error details are here. So it returns this object when there is an error, but the status code is standard when we use try. So it handles the error gracefully. Now it can continue to the next part of the code based on how you implement it. So now we try also, it returns not only the data, but also the status. Always the status code is 200, as you can see here. See here, success, true. So based on the success, if it is success, this object, the rest part is result, whether it is object or array. If success is false, this will be error. So if I put this, success will be false, error will be the error message, but the status code will not change. Still, it will be 200. Send, see, error is here because success is false. Now, not only try, we can also use or else try, or else, and so on. You can see in the documentation, we have try, or else try, or else. So try this one. If that doesn't work, try this one. If that doesn't work, try this one, or else do this one, kind of handling errors. So here we can do, if this, I will change this to JSON, for example, I will make it an error. So copy paste this as is. Now, the second try, I will make it or else try this one, you see, or else. Always when we write functions using multiple keywords, the first keyword is lowercase, starts with lowercase. The next keyword is, they start with uppercase. So here also, or else try. So now this one, I will make it an error because the MIME type is not JSON. Now it is going to continue to this part and still I will get a result. If I save this, it will be success still. However, if this or else try is not there, it will give me an error message because the data type, the MIME type is incorrect. So this one, it is trying to read data from this path with this MIME type. If this is error, then it is continue to this path and so on. Even I can add or else try here, multiple or else tries. Probably if it is XML. So now it is going to read from the third option here, this one. So go here, send again, products. Now it should be successful. It should be success because it will get the data from here still. And send request. As you can see, it is true and the data is here. But it is not from this read URL or this read URL, but rather it is from this read URL. And if we send still, if it couldn't get in all of these 3 read URL functions, it is going to give us success false and error object, but the status code we said still remains 200. Yeah, so it gives us this one. And we can customize it also. Finally, we can add or else. So we can do or else, then there is a function called fail, and we can add our own message here. Fail, file was not found, or we can add this requested file itself. Requested file, concatenate that with was not found. Nope. Was not found. Let's try again. For example. Now it is going to give us an error message because this is like error in error handling that we saw, triggering an error. So it is going to fail and it is going to return this error in the error message. So save this. And now I will come here. I have to update it. Let's see. Yep, successfully reconnected, as you can see here. Clear. Send request. So you see now, when we put fail, start with the status is 500 server error because it is an error, like it is triggering an error. And we have also the error message that we added here. Product was not found. Please try again. So, yeah, I will share this practice with that, go over the examples in here and the run module. These functions, they help us to handle errors in DataWeave code, not like in the flow. So we spent 3-4 classes looking at how to handle errors at an application level, at flow level, at component level with these error handlers, right? Before, now it is at the code level, at the DataWeave level, how do we handle errors? That's it. And finally, another 5 minutes. Let me take 5 minutes and show you this one. This one is expect one question, like in interviews and also in certification, under mules and lookup function. Under mule here, expand. We have lookup. We'll see P also, which is common. We'll see it another time. But the main one is lookup that we are going to just see today. So this function enables you to execute a flow within a mule app and retrieves the resulting payload. So it is similar to flow reference within a flow, but now we are using DataWeave code. And read these details. We say it returns the payload only, doesn't return variables and attributes. And also it is not used with subflows somewhere, it's like that. It is used only with private flows. There is also this one, timeout in milliseconds. If you are running it in debug mode, you have to increase this timeout in milliseconds, otherwise it will tell you it has timed out. So you may ask, so what's the difference with flow reference? And this one, read this warning. It says flow reference is recommended, but there are some cases where lookup, where you may need to use lookup function, like to process the data before you pass it to a flow for flow reference and so on. So I have one simple example here, and I'll stop this. We'll run it in debug mode, and I want to show you. So we have a private flow is a flow without a source trigger, we said. So lookup triggers only a private flow. I have this private flow. What does it do? Let's see. In here, so it reads the airport's data, and it filters the data to where the name equals to payload.airport name, and this flow is going to pass airport name information from this. See, I have lookup here, and I don't need to import anything. As you can see, in this flow, I have a listener, so I'm going to send request to this flow, which is lookup in the path. So here, when we use lookup, see the documentation here, it needs a flow name, the payload, and timeout milliseconds. That's what I have done here. Lookup, the flow name here, I want to reference this one, return airport info. This is my flow. And this payload, where am I getting? Okay, this payload, let's say we are going to send a payload from Postman with an object of airport name. So that will be the payload. This payload is coming from Postman. And this is the timeout. I have extended it so that when I run it in debug mode, it doesn't time out. So you see, this payload will send it from Postman. This payload that comes to this flow, to the DataWeave lookup flow, is going to be passed to this flow that is being referenced, that it will come to here, and it is going to return data for the airport name that will pass here. Let me create a sample, and before we run it in debug mode, explain it better. So here, and this is our path. And in the body, we want to send, if you just click row here and then drop down JSON, send this as post. When we use the post method here, the data we send here is the payload. Here it comes payload. If we don't overwrite it, that is the payload here in the listener. If we want, we can save it as a target, but by default, it is payload. Okay, so that payload comes to this transform message. What is the payload? This one, airport name equals to some airport name. This airport name existed in the file. So this object will come to this flow. Now, this flow, it wants us to use lookup and execute this other flow. This other flow, what does it do? It takes the airport name that it got, which we sent from Postman, and filters the airport data for that airport name and returns the data. So when we run this in debug mode, it is going to come from this listener to here when we send data. From this transform message, it will not go to this logger. Rather, it will go to this one. It is like flow reference. Then from here, we'll see the payload, how the payload changes. It will go to here, then it will come to here, and we'll see the final answer. So debug project, if we debug this, and we are going to send this, basically the airport's data is this one, so the airport name. So what I'm doing is, if I send in my object airport name and the name is this one, it will return this data for me. If I send this in Postman, it is going to send this one for me. But this filtering, it is not done, it is not being done in the main flow that I am calling, but rather this flow, it is calling another flow. And when you have a complicated project, complex project, you can divide it into chunks like this so that you know what is happening where. So it is getting especially to get intermediate results. Now let's send this request and see send. So it is running a debug mode. As you can see, we are in the main flow in this transform message. If you see the payload here, we have this object that we send. Airport name is this airport name. In the data, it is not airport. In the key is not airport name. It is name. So in the filter, I have to use name, not airport name. Now, when I click next, it will come to this one with this payload. It will come to this transform message. Let's move this up. Yeah, it will come to this transform message. And now payload.airport name will give, so since we have this object key value, right? So this payload dot this key will give us this value, and we are using that to filter for where the for each object, check if the name corresponds to this one and return that data. So click next processor. As you can see now, it moved from this main flow, it moved to this one. Now my payload is, as you can see, it is Java type, linked hash map. The data has come here, the payload. This payload that you see now is the payload that I sent from Postman, and the calling flow sent it to this one. So you can see the payload here. I have key and value. Click next. Okay, did it time out or what happened? Let me see what my error is. It's saying, so airport, oh yeah, here. I changed the path, so this one should be airports. Let's see, successfully reconnected. I will send it again. So exit here and clear this and send the request again. So initially, it is in the main flow. When I click next, it will go up to the transform message. As you can see, it moved up. You can't see the payload. Data type itself has changed, but it is the same data that we sent. Then click next. It moved to the logger. Now see our payload, how it changed. Our payload now has changed to this record, to this object. Why? Because from Postman, in the object we sent, the value was this airport name. And in the code here, in the transform message, in the flow that is being called, we use the filter. And what we did is give me the data of the airport's data where the name is the airport name. So practice this one. It is a little bit tricky until you practice it, but it is intuitive once you practice. So it is here. Now, when I click next, it will return to the calling flow, to this one. You see, now it came here. Now, when I click next, I will get the results in here. I have these results, as you can see. We can also send for another airport, let's say Jefferson County International Airport. The same thing. I just replace this one. Send. Come here. It is in here. Click next. Now it goes to the flow that is being referenced. The payload is data that I sent. It has not yet changed. You can see it here. We have this airport, Jefferson County International. When I click next, this payload itself will change. You see it returns the data for that airport. And when I click next, it comes to the main flow, and I get this data. So practice with that. I will push this project and also update the interview questions project also, so that you can get the recent questions also added. And we will complete our classes on DataWeave tomorrow. But as I said, we will still practice DataWeave questionnaires. We will have more questionnaires, and I will keep sharing different questions and answers in the Telegram group. But this is enough for today. Let me unmute you and check if you have any questions.